Okay, so it's great to have you joining us. It's Corey Sievers here, so welcome to the Savvy Team Healthy, Wealthy, Wise webinar. It's great to see more people joining us since we've just got started and taken care of some of the technical hitches that often happen when you're doing this sort of thing.
Yes, and it's Linda Barker here, and we'd like to welcome.
Yeah, again, a special welcome to the guests joining us, and of course, welcome to those Savvy Team members on this evening as well. It's great to have you joining us, but special welcome to the guests joining us to check out what the Savvy Team is all about and what we do and how we can really help you with with everything to do with being healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Oh, I like that. I think it's a great blessing actually to have information that people can listen to and benefit from, and we get a kick out of sharing, and we get a bigger kick out of seeing people's lives transform as they implement some of the strategies that we've been able to use, Corey.
So again, welcome. We'll be covering some of the Savvy Wellness concepts on the webinar. So essentially simple steps to help you prevent disease and improve your health and vitality. And in particular, the topic tonight is called Wellness, It's Not That Hard. And we'll be covering really some of the very simple information that we teach in the Savvy Team, and which is why so many people in the team experience such incredible well-being. So again, welcome to the Savvy Team members joining us on tonight's Healthy, Wealthy, Wise webinar, and to those of you who are guests having a look at what the Savvy Team can offer you. So a little bit of information first. The webinar tonight really relates to the information that we know and our study and research, and is for educational purposes only. So of course, if you have any question as to the appropriateness of the info for yourself and with regards to your own health, then discuss it with your doctor, but keep in mind that you need to find a doctor who actually reads the medical journals where a lot of this information is contained. It's interesting, Linda, when we talk about nutrition and wellness, that many people sort of think that because their doctor hasn't told them about it, then that it mustn't be scientific. But in actual fact, a lot of what we're talking about is written in the medical journals, is widely known, but is just not talked about by the average physician. Perhaps because they're just too busy.
We're really fighting fires, that's why, because there's so much ill health these days. They haven't even time to look at wellness. They're really just focused on disease.
But if you're into reading medical journals, the information is there. So welcome. If you just joined us, we're talking about wellness. It's not that hard on the Savvy Team Healthy, Wealthy, Wise webinar, and so it's great that you've joined us. So first of all, we're going to talk about, okay, if we're looking at the area of wellness, we've got to look at the area, first of all, of the sort of things that we complain about in terms of illness and, the things that we're, I guess, not happy about with our health. And so I guess as we begin getting underway here, I'd like you to think about for yourself, what are the things that you're not happy about in terms of your health and vitality? Because if we're talking about wellness is not that hard, then we could just as easily say that, sickness is not that hard either. And so it's sort of like that razor's edge, that fine line between whether you step in the direction of wellness or whether the actions and the daily disciplines and the things that you're doing take you in the area of disease and premature aging and that sort of thing. So first of all, we'll talk about men. We'll talk about maybe the blokes joining us here, and maybe there's some grumpy old men on here like like this fellow on screen here. But men, what are you frowning about and not happy about? And I've got something I'm going to read to you from that was written in one of Bernard Salt's book, and he's a demographic commentator on different things, and this was in light of what we're talking about this evening. I thought that this was worthwhile reading to you. So it's a letter to God. So, dear God, I'm writing to complain about one of your products, one of the products you manufacture or create, to use your corporate jargon. I refer to the product known as the human male body. I've been the owner of said product for 50 years, and to be fair, it has performed reasonably well. Now, of course, I do understand that your products do not come with warranties and that they should not be abused or mistreated, but I have noticed a series of what can only be described as design faults that have emerged over time. I don't particularly want to get a reputation as a whinger, but if someone doesn't complain, then things won't improve. This is not to say that I'm not impressed with your work. The hummingbird, for example, simply brilliant. And the platypus, how ingenious. Now, you see, that's why you're God and I'm a mere mortal. I would never have thought to combine all those features in one product. But back to the design faults in the human male body. The facts are these. After 35 years, the vision simply fails. The audio packs it in soon after. And as for the hair, is this some sort of cruel joke? You leave just enough there to affect reproduction and then you whip it away. Where does it go and why do you need it? There is also the issue with operating efficiencies. After 45 years, the fat burner regulator goes bung. The knee joints simply don't work after 50 years, and I have it on good authority that after 60 years, the hips wear out. This is like buying some fancy piece of high technology that performs well initially, but is cunningly designed with inbuilt obsolescence. I do understand that some unscrupulous creators might cut corners, but frankly, I did expect better from God. And so, without wishing to invoke your wrath, I present my complaint in good faith, no disrespect intended. We all make the odd mistake, and so I feel that when you created Adam all those years ago, you might have momentarily taken your eye off the ball. I can see that it would be very difficult to retrofit flawed products. So what I propose by way of compensation is an extension to the product lifespan. Add another decade to the 70 I think I'm entitled to, and we'll call it even. Many thanks for your attention, and I wish you well in your future creations. Yours sincerely, Bernard Salt. So obviously this is a humorous look at aging and the things that we see fall apart, so to speak, or operating inefficiencies. But let me read to you God's reply to Bernard. Dear Bernard, thank you for your letter and for your suggestions as to how I might improve one of my creations. I do from time to time get critical feedback, and generally I refer them down to my customer complaints department. But I must say your letter intrigues me. The fact is, Mr. Salt, the product you inhabit was designed about 1 million years ago, and generally I like to design a prototype, fling it onto the market, and let evolution take it from there and see how it goes. If it's working, I let it evolve. If not, I wipe it out and start another project. Initially, I focused on reptiles, but then I got interested in mammals. You cannot afford to stand still in the creation business. However, my design brief for the human male body was that it should perform optimally for the time it takes to achieve reproduction, plus a period of about 1.5 decades to support the next generation's development through to puberty. I had no complaints about product performance in the early years, and the reason, I suspect, is that until recently, human male bodies ceased to exist at about the 35-year mark. No one at that time complained about failing vision, audio, and fat burners. No one at that time had dicky knees or hips. And the reason is simple. They dropped dead before these so-called faults had time to surface. I gather you're not interested in death as a solution, Mr. Salt. Let me assure you that can be arranged. I outsourced that task to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Grim Reaper. Shocking personal hygiene and sartorial presentation, but an absolute craftsman when it comes to his profession. I might also add that in the early years, no one complained about the plumbing issues. Now, I know you didn't put that in your letter, but me being God and all, I know what you were thinking. And so the simple fact is this. You are pushing my product years beyond its original use-by date, and frankly, I'm surprised at how well it's holding up. Far from being embarrassed about the purported non-performance of the human male body, I am proud to say that yet another of my creations is performing admirably under the circumstances. And I will be providing no guarantee about future longevity, and although I'm not an especially vengeful God, my wrath isn't what it's cracked up to be. I'm more into mediation these days. I must say that I have no idea what's in store for you down the track. I simply haven't looked at your file. In the meantime, I suggest you treat my product with care, service it regularly, and with any luck, meaning without my intervention, you could get years of service out of it yet. But then again, you might not. Kind regards, God. So that's the complaints from the blokes, and I'm not sure. Ladies, do you have anything to add to those complaints to God? It's an interesting thing that we can easily list our complaints, but sometimes we can't. We don't know what simple things we can do about it.
That's right, Corey, and I think understanding how simple the solutions are, if you follow the practices that I think are actually basic, God-given, if you like, health practices that we've drifted away from over the years. I think it's amazing how you can turn back the aging clock in a wonderful way.
So what I find fascinating about that whole scenario, that conversation, that backwards and forwards conversation there between Bernard and God, so to speak, is this whole reply from God that we're pushing the product lifespan well beyond what it was designed to meet in terms of years. And that's sort of a bit of a cause for difference of opinion out there. Because when we look at some of the mammals, like in the letter there, God said he moved from reptiles to mammals, jokingly talking about the dinosaurs to humans and everything. And like if we look at other mammals, by the time an animal has reached sexual maturity, usually their lifespan is around about 7 times the age of sexual maturity. And generally, that of course differs between animals, and certainly it has changed a lot with a lot of inbreeding and everything through humans breeding animals. That's changed their lifespan. But generally speaking, we're looking at a 7-fold lifespan, from the age of sexual maturity. So if we say that you reach sexual maturity in your teens in terms of adults, we simply, let's say that it's 18, let's say that it's 15.
Maths is easier if it's 50.
Well, people are not making it as a general rule to their 7-fold longevity potential, even if sexual maturity happens at 15. Really, meaning that we make it to 100 routinely. It just doesn't happen. And so the question is, are we really pushing the lifespan like it depicted in the letter there from God, or are we simply doing something wrong along the way to cause premature aging? And it's our belief that we're simply doing something wrong along the way. And that's what we want to talk about, the underlying cause of disease and aging. So, what is the cause of disease? It's like when we get sick, sometimes we can say that it really was, we can put it down to a bug or a virus or whatever, but it's easy to get confused when we start to think about the cause of disease and premature aging. We take it away from getting the flu or, something simple like that. We sort of feel like we know the cause, but what's the cause of disease and premature aging? Is it bugs? The initial research, went into the germ theory, and this is where we ended up with, the success of antibiotics. But now they've been overused, and people are finding that antibiotics aren't working. Is it genetics? Well, that means that everybody with a certain, genetic heritage is going to be guaranteed of getting a certain disease, but that doesn't happen. Genetics gives us a glimpse. It gives us a predisposition to problems, but it doesn't guarantee anything. And if you read some of the latest research, that what we do can actually affect our genetic potential. We have an influence over the way our genes operate, rather than being a victim to the genes. Is it just simply diet and nutrition? Is it some sort of a disposition, so it comes down to attitude? That certainly has an impact. Is it all of the above? Is it something different that causes it? And so it's very easy to get really confused about what causes disease the more you start to think about it there. And I think it is a multifaceted a challenge that we're looking at here, but I think we can boil it down to some simple things that we can do on a daily basis that takes us towards wellness rather than towards disease. Not much we can do about it genetics, but what can we do to express our best genetic potential? The next question is wellness complicated? Well, if you ask the people in the white lab coats, they would say that it is complicated. But I would challenge that. I would say that their focus is in the area of sickness and disease, and that is a very complicated arena because, there's more than one way of treating certain diseases. And most of the time the focus on treating diseases has got into the treating of symptoms. So symptom management can become very, very complicated. So I guess that's what we're looking at here. The fact that, is it too complicated that you need to hire some professional to look after you? Or is it simple enough to achieve wellness that you should be taking control and doing something on a daily basis? And so while we're looking at that whole complicated aspect there, we look at the difference then between medicine and science. We could say that medicine is complicated, but the science of wellness is actually very simple. So if you read this book, this is a book that we recommend. It's called Selling Sickness, and it really will highlight to you the challenges with the whole pharmaceutical industry and the drug industry. So if you're on a number of medications, then my suggestion is read that book because it might give you some inspiration to work with your doctor and pharmacist and whatever health practitioner you're working with to try to lessen some of those medications. So the medical focus is still on the use of drugs and surgery to deal with disease symptoms, not really to work at the underlying cause or to heal the problem. In many cases, what we're looking at is long-term symptom management. Let's just look at high blood pressure. The goal of the medication is not to cure the high blood pressure. You will never cure the high blood pressure with high blood pressure medication. You will be medicated for life. The goal is not to cure it. You can ask your doctor, what do I do though to work towards reducing my blood pressure and getting healthier? And generally you'll be met with eat a good diet and exercise. That's about it. So mainly what we're dealing with medication, it's dealing with the effect of a disease, not really the cause. Like high blood pressure medication isn't looking at the cause of the high blood pressure, it's just affecting a reduction in the blood pressure, which does of course reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, but you're not dealing with the underlying issue. And yet when people have followed the wellness programs and the Savvy team, many of them have had their doctor take them off their blood pressure medication because they just didn't need it anymore. That's just one example of a whole list of things. So, what we're looking at here is medicine by nature is too little, too late. You're actually dealing with, you're just dealing with the symptoms long term to hopefully make it to old age, so to speak. So we need the best of science and nature. We need to start looking at what we can do. Medication can be a real advantage for people. It can be life-saving, but we need to look at the underlying causes of disease and what we can do to affect wellness, not just the management of symptoms. So the question is, who has control? Many people are scared to work with their doctor and say, hey doc, I want to start changing things. I want to improve my diet. I want to start a supplementation regime, and I'm looking at exploring things and taking more control and learning about things, and I want to work with you and reduce my medication if possible. Sometimes doctors are really happy to have a patient that will work with them like that. Sometimes not. So you've got to realize that you have the control. It's your body, and if you do not meet with the right with what you feel is helpful, a helpful working relationship with your doctor, then my suggestion really is to just look for someone who you can work with. Doesn't matter if you've been with someone for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. The fact of the matter is you're looking to achieve wellness in the future. All right, so wellness, it's not that hard. Let's start to look at what we can do, and what we can do to start improving your well-being. So when we talk about well-being, it's important to realize that we're holistic, and that it's generally the focus of medicine is to focus on symptoms and on one particular area of the body, whereas really we're holistic beings. So if we're looking at the underlying cause, we need to treat the body, and sometimes that means looking at other areas, like we talked about there, that it could be come down to attitudinal stuff and environmental stuff, whether it be bugs or chemicals or whatever. So I love this particular holistic wellness wheel because of the fact that it's got purpose as a central focus there. But, really, when we look at holistic wellness, there are probably 4 key problem areas that are causing a lot of your grief, so to speak, or a lot of the reason you go down the way of illness and towards disease and premature aging rather than towards, optimal well-being. The first is structural and physical, and this is everything from nerves, circulation problems, not enough exercise, injury, trauma, lack of rest, that sort of thing. Then we move into emotional and mental, and this is things like stress, worry, fear, poor attitude, that sort of thing. So the next area is an environmental chemical area, everything to do with the effect that chemicals have on you. Mold, vaccinations, electromagnetic frequencies, these all do upset the natural equilibrium of the body. Then we have nutritional factors, whether it be a poor diet or a lack of nutrients. So they're the 4 key problem areas. And what we've seen over the years, over the decades that we've been involved in health and wellness, is that when people want to get their life back on track, these are the 4 areas that would hold them up. If there was going to be a roadblock towards wellness, it usually occurs in one of these 4 key areas. Okay, and so they're the areas to focus on. But to keep it simple, we could boil it down, like there's 4. We've taken it from the holistic wellness wheel to 4 key problem areas for you to keep in mind, but we can boil it down to the fact that we believe there are 2 fundamental causes of disease and premature aging, and they are a lack of nutrition and excessive toxicity from some source. So we could say a lack of nutrition might be a poor diet, it might be not getting enough nutrition from your diet, it might be a highly processed diet or whatever, and the excessive toxicity is from different sources. But it's like your body is getting too many toxins, and so it's being bombarded and overloaded with these chemicals and not enough nutrition to help the body to deal with it. And so, when we look at the area of excessive toxicity, where are these toxins coming from? What's the problem? Well, the top 5 sources of toxins you need to know about are these. Number 1 is the personal care and household products that you're using in the home. Looking first of all at the bathroom products, toothpaste, shampoos, skin creams, things that you're applying to your body. So the reason that they are the biggest issue is because you're being exposed multiple times a day usually, and it's something that's being applied directly to your body. Now, if you've kept up with the news, you might have noticed that even in the safest of baby shampoos and everything, there have been harmful ingredients, including carcinogenic ingredients. Johnson & Johnson has just come out saying that they're going to remove some of the carcinogenic ingredients from their products, so they're cancer-causing things we're talking about here, things such as formaldehyde and things like that, and 1,4-dioxane. Now, the funny thing is, Linda, that people go looking on the label to see whether it's got 1,4-dioxane or quaternium and formaldehyde, not realizing that these things are off-label ingredients. They're things that come from the production. And Johnson & Johnson know that they're in there because they've been tested, but they're not on the label necessarily.
It's what Samuel Epstein calls hidden carcinogens,
Yeah.
because often it's a reaction within the ingredients themselves.
That's right. And so for years, and that was fascinating to see that they came out and said that. It was written up in the New York Times. You can go searching for it, and you'll find that they've said that they're going to take 3 years to start phasing that out. Well, look, we've been teaching people about the importance of eliminating these ingredients for a couple of decades. And so the thing to be aware of, so many people go off and say, well, they look at the label read and they think they're a biochemist, and just because it's not on the label, and yet that's exactly what Johnson & Johnson was saying, that it's not necessarily on the label, but we're phasing it out. We're not using the processes that can cause this issue.
We're going to start phasing it out in 3 years.
Oh, terrible when you think about it. So, and we're talking here about what people think is the safest, baby shampoos and things like that. Pretty scary. So next is household products, the things that are in the home, because they're all outgassing and producing a level of toxicity within the actual home environment. So they're the top 2 I guess that's the top one to take action on. Number two is medication. I won't go into that too much, but really it does affect a level of toxicity in the body there. Food and beverages, the chemicals, the colorants, the artificial flavors, and etc. They're all chemicals. Environmental pollution is the next one. That's something that we perhaps can't do too much about, but we can boost our nutrition to help our body's ability to deal with that. The next is stress and negative thinking. Now, we mentioned that as one of the areas to be aware of, the whole emotional and mental side of things. But stress and negative thinking, stress now is one of the leading causes of the breakdown of the whole endocrine system, like causing people to have adrenal burnout and thyroid problems and all of this sort of thing. So, but in and of itself, it sort of releases chemical-like hormones in the body. So again, negative effectors. So it's sort of like leads to excessive toxicity. So then we're dealing with the fact that there's nutrient depletion in the food. And look, back in 1936, it was reported to the US Senate that 99% of the population was deficient in minerals. In 1977, Dr. Walter Mertz from the US Department of Agriculture said that in the future we will not be able to rely on the premise that a balanced diet will provide all the necessary nutrients, because such a diet will be very difficult to obtain for millions of people. Now, we're talking here even if you're trying to eat a balanced diet. I'm not talking about eating, fast food all the time. Even if you're trying to eat a balanced, healthy diet, it will still be difficult to obtain the necessary nutrients without supplementation. And that was back in 1977. That's a long time ago. And we've seen a steady decline in the mineral content of things such as beans, carrots, and tomatoes, things that we would be eating thinking that we're doing the right thing and being healthy. So two-time Nobel Prize winner Linus Pauling believed that you could trace every sickness, every disease, and every ailment to a nutrient deficiency. Now, it has been quoted that he said mineral deficiency. Some people have actually said that he didn't say that because he was such a proponent of vitamin C supplementation that he couldn't have said mineral deficiency. But the thing is that, whatever it is, I believe that he would have said nutrient deficiency because he was the father of what's known as orthomolecular medicine, where you use a nutritional component to treat a disease. And he believed in supplementation of trace elements, supplementation of B vitamins, supplementation of antioxidants such as vitamin C. And he believed vitamin C was the focal point because we don't manufacture vitamin C in our body. And that's why he jumped onto that in particular. But he was the only person in history to be awarded 2 unshared Nobel Prizes in 2 different fields. So, again, my challenge to you, if you've gone to some so-called expert and they have said, all you need is a balanced diet, or you've been reading in some, magazine, all you need is a balanced diet, then whoever's writing that, whoever's talking to you is operating on outdated information. And, if they're challenging you, then ask how many Nobel Prizes they have. Because, Linus Pauling, for example, who is no lightweight in the scientific arena, believed in the power of nutrition to turn around disease. And that's what orthomolecular medicine was all about. So, that's what we're dealing with here. So it's this concept of service and maintenance that we want to talk about here. So earlier in the in that quip between Bernard Salt and God, God said, "Look after my product, service it regularly, and you might get more years out of it." Service it regularly? What does that mean? We're talking about the human body here. We're not talking about a car, and so we can get our mind around the concept of servicing a car, but sometimes it's hard to get our mind around the concept of servicing us. What does that mean? And what does maintenance mean? Well, let's just talk about what we believe is maintenance and what you need to do on a daily basis to maintain your vehicle, the vehicle that you're driving around in every day, you. So the first step would be to decrease the chemical exposure from all avoidable sources. So find a way of decreasing avoidable sources of chemicals. And we'll talk more about this in part 2 of the webinar. But the next thing we've got to do is we've got to look towards getting the 90 nutrients that the body requires. This is sort of like the high octane fuel that the body needs to run properly. So if you took your car off to the service station and filled it up with cruddy fuel that's been low quality fuel that's been mixed up with a whole bunch of sediment from the bottom of the tanks, and it's not good, your car doesn't run as well as if it's on the high octane fuel. So like talking about premium unleaded, for example. So what do we need? What do we need in terms of our body to get this premium unleaded fuel? We need the 90 nutrients, and so minerals and vitamins are so important because there's not enough in our foods, and so we get trace elements from our foods normally. But if our foods don't have the minerals in there, then we're not getting that. Multivitamins are important. Antioxidants are important to get on a daily basis. Essential fatty acids, amino acids. So that's what makes up the 90 nutrients that we need. So let's look at what we need. Colloidal minerals, the importance of trace elements which you can obtain from colloidal minerals. Trace elements help with our acid-alkaline balance, so really helping the body to buffer acidity. It helps to create healthy blood. Very important for muscle and bone health and hormonal secretion. Rely upon having the right balance of trace elements just to function properly. Multivitamins are necessary for general health and well-being, for healthy cell development, for production of energy in the body. So, when you feel like you're run down, often it's, that your body doesn't have the minerals or multivitamins that it needs. And we need multivitamins to prevent deficiency as well. There's a number of different deficiencies that can be, or diseases that can be caused by not enough B vitamins. So we all know about the importance of vitamins really to prevent deficiency, and there's simply not enough in foods. We also need, as part of our 90 nutrient regime, amino acids. So there's about 9 essential amino acids, 22 in total, and these are building blocks of the body that are important for cell repair, wound healing, and even for the immune system. And a great source of amino acids are green superfoods. Now, of course, you're getting amino acids in the protein foods you're eating, such as fish and the meats that you're eating, and eggs and dairy, all that sort of thing. But the challenge with a lot of the normal protein foods you're eating is that they've been cooked, meaning that what you're dealing with is, you've somewhat damaged some of the amino acid content. And tryptophan and lysine are 2 essential amino acids that are damaged by cooking. So if you don't have another source that is a raw source from foods, for example, then you could be deficient in some of the important essential amino acids. But supplementing with green superfoods can help to improve that. The next thing that we need to protect our vehicle are antioxidants. Now, the antioxidants slow the biological rusting, so we could sort of say that they're like a rust protection for our vehicle. They, antioxidants are free radical scavenging. They're important for the circulatory system. They can slow aging, improve collagen fibers, which is sort of like the reinforcing of our body, and improve the immune system. So, we need minerals, trace elements, we need multivitamins, and we need amino acids and antioxidants as part of our 90 nutrient regime. What else do we need? We need, so we'll talk more about antioxidants here. So antioxidants, we also just don't get in our foods as much because we're picking the foods green and artificially ripening them. So foods that are naturally ripened will be much richer in antioxidants. And so some of the things that are helpful are things like the antioxidant vitamins, such as vitamin C, vitamin E, bioflavonoids, OPCs, resveratrol, coenzyme Q10, astaxanthin. There's a number of different things, green tea, extract. All of these are really potent antioxidants. And, a lot of times people say, well, which is the best one to take? And people are supplementing individually with resveratrol, for example, or individually with bioflavonoids. Well, we believe every one of them has their benefit, and so what you're really wanting to get is a broad spectrum antioxidant supplement to top up your natural dietary antioxidants. We'll talk more about that in part 2. But just to give you a glimpse of some of the things that you need, we've got an antioxidant chart here. So when we talked about the antioxidant vitamins, say, for example, vitamin C, vitamin E are antioxidant vitamins. Now, generally, like we look at vitamin C, it's one of the most well-known antioxidants, and what people like Linus Pauling spend a lot of time studying. The human body cannot produce vitamin C, whereas animals produce vitamin C as part of their normal metabolism. And so we need to get it in our diet. But the problem is if we supplement or get it in our diet from foods, it's only effective in the body for up to 3 hours. So when we're looking to supplementing with just vitamin C, in our opinion, it's just not enough anymore. So we need to move towards, science has helped to uncover a second generation of antioxidants, a more powerful second step, you could say. And the first of these is the OPCs, found to be 20 times more powerful than vitamin C, 50 times more powerful than vitamin E, and they're extracted from things such as the grapeseed and pine bark. Okay, now also antioxidants such as resveratrol can be found in grapeseed, for example. And so, when you're getting grapeseed and pine bark extract, you're naturally getting things such as resveratrol as well as the OPCs. Now, these OPCs are effective in the body for up to 3 days, so they have a residual effect in the body, and they have the added advantage of being able to potentiate or recycle vitamin C, for example. So you need less vitamin C to get the job done. So other things that we could consider second generation are things such as ginkgo biloba, coenzyme Q10, green tea extract, rosemary, lycopene. These are all important antioxidants to consider as well, but they're not going to be effective in the body for up to 3 days like the OPCs. Then we've got our third generation, and curcuminoids have been shown to be effective in the body for an extended length of time, and they've been shown to be 60 times more powerful than vitamin C and 150 times more powerful than vitamin E. And so, if you're supplementing with vitamin E for your heart health, have you been taking curcuminoids as well, because they're much more powerful than vitamin E? And then we've got the new kid on the block called astaxanthin, shown to be 10 times more effective than beta-carotene, 500 times more powerful than vitamin E. And so, this is what we're looking at here. Many people think, well, I'm getting my antioxidants, I take vitamin C, I take my 500 milligram vitamin C, and I eat lots of fruit. Well, I'm afraid that you're just not keeping up with the bombardment of chemicals in the general atmosphere. So that gives you a glimpse of what's important. What else do we need? In a 90-nutrient regime, we need essential fatty acids. Now, essential fatty acids are the building blocks of the cell membranes. They're so important for the brain and the nervous system, as well as eye function, cardiovascular health, important in sperm formation and conception, the whole, reproduction concept there for men and women. So if you're looking to fall pregnant, it's good for both the mother and the father to be supplementing with the 90 nutrients, but in particular the essential fatty acids. Important for joint mobility. We're talking here about service and maintenance. And so, we could almost liken, we had this quip, of course, from Bernard Salt earlier there about the hip joints wearing out. Well, we could sort of liken the hip joints of the body to sort of like the CV joints in a car. Now, if the CV joints dry out and get filled with dust and everything, they wear out, and so that can sort of ruin your chances of getting anywhere and be very expensive. Well, now we're seeing our CV joints, our hips, wearing out, and it's really because of not enough essential fatty acids over the years and not enough antioxidants and water. So our hip CV joints have dried out and started to wear down the cartilage, meaning they need to be replaced. And so really, if we'd have been getting enough water, enough antioxidants, enough essential fatty acids over our lifetime, we wouldn't have worn out hips and knees, as was talked about earlier. It's not just, we're not talking here about premature aging, and it's just like so many people go to the doctor and doctor just says, oh, it's old age. Whereas there's something you can do about it, but prevention is better than cure. Skin and eye health, essential fatty acids, so important for that, as well as general body inflammation. You can get the essential fatty acids from things like krill oil, evening primrose, fish oil, flaxseed oil, and so we recommend a blend because it's the best way to get the different proportions of the oils that you need, especially things like flaxseed oil, evening primrose, and krill are what we recommend. Best to stay away from fish because the source can be of concern, and it can have added mercury as well. So we're a believer in those essential fatty acid sources listed there. So back to this concept of service, and what are we talking about in the area of service requirements? Now, nowadays, modern cars, can come up with warnings telling us what we need to service, telling us that our filters had it, telling us our engine oil is exhausted, that we need to replace our brake fluid, and can tell us that some of our systems are okay. Now, it would be silly to see these warning labels, and and it can also, they can say that we're well past due for a service. It would be silly to look at this service requirement and just ignore it, or go off to the service center and say, how, can you help me just manage the symptoms and ignore these requirements for a little bit longer? The service center will say, well, you're likely to get damage if we don't do the service and replace those things. But we're doing that every day with our body. We're ignoring the service requirements. Now, the question that many of you might think is, well, okay, does our body really throw up warning lights like this? Well, I would suggest that it does. So when you're looking at skin conditions and tiredness and, foggy thinking and all this sort of thing, maybe your filter's playing up. Maybe, we can't replace our engine oil if we're looking at our blood, but we certainly can assist the filter. We certainly can make sure that the pipes are clean and that we've put some injector cleaner through the system so that we're operating properly. And, all of these things, there are things that we can do to service the body's requirements. And the way we do that is really by looking at the body's detoxification pathways. So the body has 5 major detox organs and 2 associated pathways. So we've got the skin, the liver, the kidneys, the bowel, and the lungs. These are all organs of the body that helps to release toxins. Now, if these areas need servicing and are overloaded and blocked, then you're going to have problems. If your microfilter, like in that previous picture there of the liver, is blocked, then you're going to get illness and disease. Okay? So really what we've got to do is we've got to, maybe on an annual basis, look to service our body's detoxification pathways. And with the Savvy Wellness concepts and all of our wellness programs, we have programs to make it easy for you to service your detox pathways. And there are some of them that we recommend doing on an annual basis. So we've got things like the parasite and bowel cleanse. At least doing a parasite cleanse is a good thing to do for your annual service. Then there's the Healthy Heart Challenge to clean up your cardiovascular system. That's a really good annual service thing to do. We've got cellular detox, anti-aging, our Fat on the Move program. All of these sort of things will help the body to function better. What we're about really is we want to help you maximize your genetics. It doesn't matter whether you feel like you're a skinny kid or whether it be, whether you weren't born with the best genetics. Our job is really to help you by decreasing chemicals, increasing nutrition to maximize your genetics. You can't change your parents or your genetics. It's what you've got. But what the whole concept of what we do in the Savvy team and our wellness programs, they're really about helping you to maximize your genetic potential. But first thing is that you've got to take back control. You've got to be the one in the driver's seat so that you can start to take notice of your body, not be, playing victim and asking someone else, whether you're allowed to take nutrition. You've got to make the decision to take nutrition, and then you've got to start doing it. So take back control. So if you're ready for change and you're ready to trade in some of your bad habits for some good ones, then regular supplementation, along with the process of intermittent detoxification or annual servicing, is a habit that can slow aging, have you looking great, and take you towards optimal health and a reduced risk of serious illness. It can take you towards wellness rather than illness. And so what we might do is might ask some of the Savvy team members just to give us a glimpse of what they did when they decreased the chemical overload and increased nutrition, and maybe even open some of the detox pathways, just what happened for them in terms of their overall well-being. So I guess to kick the ball off, Linda, would you like to share with anyone what happened for you when you followed this process we're talking about? Thank you.
Okay. I was just saying that when, I've been using nutrition for 20-odd years, a broad range of nutrition too, as you've spoken about here, and really looked at the whole wellness concept and maintaining my health. I wasn't sick, there wasn't anything wrong with me, but I looked into health just as a matter of curiosity, really, and was amazed at the benefits that people got from nutrition. The whole chemical issue, even though I thought I knew about it years ago, I discovered more and more as I investigated it further. And for me, changing, so while I probably don't recall any great thing that happened for my health from using nutrition, I really think that the results I'm seeing now after 20 plus years on high amounts of nutrition makes a big difference. And I was up in Townsville just recently, and someone said to me, hadn't seen me for really probably 15 years, and they said they couldn't believe that I still didn't look any different in age to what I looked like back then. It was quite a compliment, actually, because she's not really a good proponent of the processes, but she's coming round when she sees the results. So, but for me, changing brands to the personal care and the household products, those things you talked about, eliminating toxins, reducing the toxic overload, that made a huge difference to me and my family. And when I think about the fact that we were already doing the nutritional factors, but changing the chemical issues in the house is the thing that made a big difference to 3 of my girls and myself in all sorts of areas of our health. So, yeah, that's quite a big issue, I think, that people often overlook.
Yeah, I guess for me personally, I was involved in a bit of sport, going through school and everything, and I believe I was just absolutely minerally depleted. So colloidal minerals, that whole colloidal mineral and vitamin supplementation was my first step, and that made a huge difference to my general energy levels. And I'm talking here, even when I was younger. And so,
you're in your early 20s, actually.
Yeah, in my early 20s, it just made such a difference. The impact that getting minerals. So, I probably ate well, had a healthy diet, all of those sorts of things, but I just wasn't getting the nutrition. So my energy levels boosted, and I was able to cope with the odd hours that I would be involved in too. Because I worked in the restaurant industry and had a cleaning business, and I worked odd hours, and it was only through supplementation that I was able to cope, really. Unfortunately, I was still being exposed to chemicals because of the industry I was working in there, but the nutrition, in particular, I think it was colloidal mineral supplementation that made the biggest difference for me. So we might now cross over to Rhonda.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. And I also had been very interested in health for all of my adult life, and ate very healthy foods and took vitamins and what have you. But like you, I think the minerals were a big key for me. And I've seen that with so many people that I've talked to, people who are in my team, that it's taking the colloidal minerals that is, the absolute first necessity. And then, of course, good quality multivitamins that we take now, I think, are far superior to anything that I was taking before. But I like that concept of just those basic nutritionals that you know, when you've got the minerals and the multivitamins and the antioxidants, and you add the essential fatty acids and the super green foods, it's like you've got the whole bundle that covers everything that the body needs. So it's not about trying to treat specific symptoms. It's much more about give the body those basic needs. You know, just feed it properly, I just really believe that the body has tremendous healing capabilities, and if it's got those basic things that it needs, that it will use those to heal whatever needs to be healed. And it's just such a fabulous way of thinking about health, as opposed to, you know, throwing mud at a wall. So yeah, it certainly has made a huge difference to my life. I like that slide that you use with the signpost. You know, I just believe that I was going downhill. I was going backwards in my health, and over the last few years, I've been going forward, and just not just with the obvious things of health, but things like teeth and gums and memory and lots of side issues as well. You know, they all improve under that basic regime. So, yep, it's a very good recipe for health. Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, thanks, Rhonda. And as you said there, that it's a very good recipe for health. And, you know, it's like what I was talking about before, and just saying, you know, I felt like the colloidal minerals were in particular good. It's like I was looking at the whole 90 nutrient. Sometimes it can be difficult because I was taking a 90 nutrient regime, and it's very hard when you see your energy levels pick up and your skin improve, and you know, your knees not as achy, because, you know, I had sort of achy knees there, and I wasn't on anything in particular like glucosamine or anything, but I noticed that just went away just on the normal 90 nutrients. So you start to see a whole range of things improve. And, you know, sometimes you guess it to which product it is, and, you know, which supplementation regime it is, but in reality, everything works together in the body. So it's really giving the body what it needs, and then the body heals. It's the 90 nutrients.
It certainly is, Corey. And I was thinking about it as I was listening to Rhonda, and it occurred to me that, you know, I said I didn't notice the nutrients, but in fact, that's actually not correct, because thinking back, I was exhausted all the time. I was, even as a young mum, I was exhausted. In fact, I was probably exhausted in my teenage years most of the time.
So what you're saying really is that looking back, you were less exhausted in your 50s than you were in your 20s and 30s.
Yes, in my 40s, in my 50s, that's right. But as I built up the nutrition in my 40s, that made a huge difference. And I think the things like my hair regrowing and my teeth improving, the gums not bleeding, and not coming down with some of the things like the arthritis that my joints indicated that I was going to get, and a whole lot of things like that. I mean, how can you tell what you don't get when you're into prevention?
Exactly. That's the key thing. So let's cross over and hear from Alice.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Corey. Yes, I was one of those people who thought I was doing the right thing. I used to go to the health shop and buy some nutrition, and I thought I was using all the right personal care, and yet I had allergies and hives and itchy eyes, and I used to line up for the flu shot, and I still got bronchitis every winter. And I do believe it is the combination of quite a number of the nutrients that you spoke about that actually now has meant that I can't remember the last time I actually had a cold. And also the changing over the personal care as well. In fact, I can remember when I first started, you know, one of my comments was, you know, I wish they would, you know, there was a bigger bottle of this moisturizing cream. And now, because I'm using, you know, personal care products that don't actually have the harmful chemicals that actually cause dryness and scaliness and itchiness and hives and rashes, I don't even have to use a moisturizing body lotion every day. So it is exactly what you said. about, lowering the toxicity and increasing the nutrition. So, yes, things are very, very different now. Back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Alice. That's great. We're going to cross over now to Anna. So thanks, Anna.
Since I've started taking the colloidal minerals and the 90 nutrients, as well as changing over all my bathroom care, I used to think that I was extremely healthy. I would work out regularly and I would eat well, but I found that I still lacked something. I would get to the point, you go well for a week or so, and I would need something. My body was craving something else because it just wasn't getting the nutrients that it needed, even though I thought I was, being quite healthy and eating all the right foods. And since being on the 90 nutrients and the colloidal minerals, I've actually had a lot more energy. I'm actually eating a lot less, but going for so much longer, and I'm not craving anything. And if I do have something naughty, I find that the rush of I got a sugar rush the other day from 2 cookies, just because my body's used to getting everything that it needs. So anything extra, goes off the Richter scale a little bit. And I also have a friend of mine whose father has just been on the basic nutrition, along with the colloidal minerals, and he's suffering from a form of asbestosis, and he gets very tired really, really quickly. And the other day, he and his wife were doing some cleaning in a rental property that they own, and he actually outlasted his wife, and he's actually now well enough. They're over in New Zealand, and he's actually well enough to come over for Christmas, which he hasn't been able to do for such a long time. And this is only from being on the nutrition and colloidal minerals for such a short amount of time. He's seeing great results, which I think just shows how much his body really needed that, because he's getting such dramatic results in a short amount of time. I thought that was fantastic.
Excellent. Thanks. Thanks for sharing, Anna. That's great. And it's so true. So many people just, take the basic nutritional regime, get the 90 nutrients, decrease the chemical, the body heals. That's really what it comes down to. So if you're ready to go and you like everything that you've been hearing about the results that you've heard, and you like the concept of what we've been talking about and starting to approach wellness rather than head towards sickness, then if you're ready to go, then contact your Savvy support team member and get started, and they'll guide you through the whole process and get you started. If you're looking for more info, such as what we were talking about earlier on, then swing by the Healthy Wealthy Wise site at savvy-team.com/HWW, and you can subscribe to the newsletter. And when you do subscribe to the newsletter, you get a whole bunch of downloads as well, including what we're talking about, the Science of Getting Rich, and some other free reports and the like. So if you're not sticking around for part 2, we thank you for joining us. We're going to have a couple of minutes break before we come back and talk about exactly what the Savvy team uses and recommends. And so it's definitely something that you want to stick around and look at, because we will be we'll be going through the 90 nutrients and explaining which products you need, which products you can source, and what we recommend. So let's take a couple of minutes, and we'll see you back for part 2.